Hello everybody and welcome. This is Doomsday Ducks Fan. Today I'm not actually doing a DDFR. Today I will be doing a mid-season report card for the Anaheim Ducks. Let's hop right into it. Alright, so at the Ducks halfway point of the season, they rank third last in points percentage. I think that's probably the most fair way to do this because not every team has played the halfway game of their season yet. And Ducks are looking at the third worst points percentage in the league, which is kind of surprising considering how bad they've been. The Ducks have allowed 167 goals scored on them this year already. That's roughly 4.07 goals a game, and they've only scored 93 goals for them this year, which is roughly about 2.25 goal every game. So it's not great. It's a minus 74 differential. This team is really, really bad. Their power play percentage is 15.25, which is about 7% lower than the average for the rest of the league. Their penalty kill is about 6% lower than the rest of the league, and their save percent is about 0.006 lower than the rest of the league, which isn't actually that bad, meaning the Ducks goaltending hasn't really been the issue, it's been everything else. Now I'm going to go through each and every single one of the players, and I'm going to start off with a grade for them for the beginning of the year, and then I'm going to tell you whether I think they are going to stay a Duck through next year, through the end of this season, or they'll get traded at the deadline. Alright, so let's start off with the highest point total, and then we'll work our way down to the lowest point total. So we will start with Troy Terry. Troy Terry currently has 33 points. He has 12 goals and 21 assists, putting him on pace for 24 goals and 42 assists on the season. I think currently he should probably get an A to an A minus rating. You'd like to see more goals from him this year. He kind of tapered off a little bit there with his goal scoring. Only on pace for 24 this year instead of the 30 he scored last year. And again, there's no way the Ducks trade Troy Terry. Troy Terry will be a Duck by the draft this summer. He doesn't get traded from this team. He's an RFA at the end of the year. They're going to have to pay him some money, but there's no way that the Ducks move on from Troy Terry. All right, second in scoring on the Ducks is Trevor Zegras. He has 31 points on the season, 12 goals and 19 assists, meaning he's on pace for 24 goals and 38 assists for 62 points at the end of the year. I would give Z a B plus to an A minus for his rating for the beginning of the year. He's done a decent job for what he's been given. But elite players win in spite of their coach. They win and score points in spite of the team around them. You can see that with players like Sidney Crosby, with Alex Ovechkin. Alex Ovechkin literally has won a Rocket Richard trophy when his team didn't even make the playoffs. Just like Terry, there's no way that they move on from Zegras. He's an RFA just like Terry at the end of the year, but no, there's no way that they're trading Z. The third highest point scorer on the Ducks is actually Mason McTavish, the Ducks rookie. To give him a grade on the year, A minus to an A. I'd put it right up there with Troy Terry because although McTavish definitely has some things to learn, mostly defensively and maybe positioning-wise just a little bit in the middle, but other than that, he's looked pretty good, especially recently. He's come on a ton. He's only like 4 points behind the rookie scorer lead, and he's as advertised in the World Juniors. He's been dominant, and there are games where he's literally looked like the best Duck on the ice. So A minus to an A for Mason McTavish, and there's no way that the Ducks trade him as well. All right, and then we have two players tied at 21. I'm going to start with Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome is, I would give him a B to a B minus. I saw what he was capable of doing, again, alongside talented players. This partially has to do with how Eakins is deploying him. He hasn't moved away from the Vetrano-Strome pairing pretty much the entire season. man, it just hasn't been working. And until we move Strome away from Vetrano, we don't really know what he is. Ducks probably will not be moving on from Ryan Strome. He signed a 5-year, $5 million contract at the beginning of this season. There's no team that's going to want to take on that contract, especially with only having 21 points in his first 41 games. That's on pace for 42 points. It's not great, but, you never know. He's potential to move, but not very likely. Then we get to Papa Rico. Before this season, everybody was calling Adam Henrique Uncle Rico because of Napoleon Dynamite. However, it's Papa now. He is a dad. He has played pretty well alongside of Troy Terry and Mason McTavish. He has 21 points on the season as well. 12 goals, 9 assists. I would give him like a B to a B+. He's better than I thought he was going to be. This is the first player, though, that I think has potential to get traded. He has another year after this one, and I guarantee that the Ducks would be willing to retain salary on Adam Henrique to trade him away. He has probably the most trade value of any Ducks forward on the team, and it wouldn't be surprising to see him move at this deadline. But if we don't see him move at this deadline, he might move at the draft. He might even move next deadline as well. The Ducks may want to keep him just for a veteran presence, but in reality, he's one of the older players that the Ducks should probably try and move on from because he can still produce points, and he's kind of worth his contract, especially if the Ducks retain, let's say, half. That means you're getting Adam Henrique at like $2.7 million. For a third-line center, I would take Adam Henrique. Now we get to the Ducks' first defenseman. Cam Fowler has 4 goals and 14 assists for 18 points at the halfway point of the season. I would give Cam B. I think a B is pretty fair. He's looked pretty bad defensively at times, but most of the Ducks have. His offense has been okay. He's not going to get his career high like he did last year. He's not going to repeat breaking that feat. But, yeah, this is a contract that the Ducks probably won't be able to move, not until at least the very end of the contract, and he's got 4 more years left. So Cam is probably staying with the Ducks for a while, and I'm not going to complain. Cam's been a solid Ducks defender for his entire career. Now we're looking at Frank Vetrano, and Frank Vetrano has 6 goals, 11 assists for 17 points. That puts him on pace for 34 points on the year. He has 3 years left at $3.65 million. Again, this is a player I don't think you see the Ducks move just because of the term on the contract. But again, just like Adam Henrique, there's potential he moves. There is potential he moves. Adam Henrique has 2 years left. Vetrano has 3 years left, including this one. And I think it's more likely that Vetrano gets moved next year or maybe even at the draft this year. But, yeah, Vetrano, I give you a C+, B-. It hasn't been great. He started off really hot and scored some decent goals, and just his goal scoring has tapered off big time. 6 goals, only on pace for 12 goals this year. And that's not what the Ducks signed him for. We now get to the second Ducks defenseman on this list. We have John Klingberg, who has 13 points, 5 goals, 8 assists in the first half of the season. It's not a very good offensive year for John Klingberg. Then again, the entire Ducks team has been struggling offensively, so it makes sense why he would be struggling as well. This is a player you're going to trade. You are trading this player no matter what. Don't be surprised if they retain half his salary and send him to a contender for $3.5 million. That would be half of his salary is $3.5 million, and I could see him going somewhere. He could even go back to Dallas. Dallas looks like a pretty decent contender. I would say he's probably moving on to somewhere along the lines of like maybe in Edmonton or even like, I don't know, the New York Islanders maybe, just so they have a little bit more scoring on the back end. But again, I don't expect to see John Klingberg on this team at the end of the season. I expect him to see him in another uniform. For his grade, C+ to a B-. I would give him the same grade that I would give Frank Petrano. He has not looked good. He hasn't. There's been games where I'm like, dude, you're giving me brain rot to watch you right now. There are some games where he's looked really good, like the game against Dallas. Even the game against San Jose recently. He's looked pretty decent, but again, this is a player that I expect to be traded. And yeah. We get to another Ducks veteran, Jakob Silfverberg. He has 10 points on the season, 5 goals, 5 assists. Looking at 10 goals, 10 assists for the remainder of the year. And I don't really expect him to get traded. He's in the same boat as Henrique. A year left on his contract. He makes roughly the same money as Henrique. He makes like 0.6 less, or 0.6 million less than Henrique. Again, they could move Silfverberg, but even still, out of Adam Henrique and Jakob Silfverberg, I expect Henrique to be moved more than Silfverberg. Silfverberg would be great to keep on the team as a veteran presence. He's been here for fucking forever. He got traded for Bobby Ryan. Yeah, I expect Adam Henrique to be traded and Jakob Silfverberg to be retained. As for his grade, a C. Like, we're getting lower and lower on the list here. A C. Now, if you thought that John Klingberg was having a bad year as an offensive defenseman, that's nothing compared to Kevin Shattenkirk. Shattenkirk has 9 points, all of them being assists in the first half of the year. It's on pace for 18 points. This is the last year of Shattenkirk's contract. Again, I could see the Ducks retaining money and, trading him away. I kind of hope that's what happens. I give Shattenkirk a chance to go play for a cup, but I don't know how much the Ducks will get back for him. He could be some lower round draft picks, because at this point, 9 assists is not very attractive. We get to Dmitry Kulikov now, who has 9 points as well. 2 of them being goals, 7 of them being assists. Again, this is probably a bit more of an attractive player than Kevin Shattenkirk. Both of them are expiring contracts, but yeah, man, Kulikov is probably the better of the 2 defensemen. He's more defensively sound, stronger in front of the net, makes smarter defensive plays. I expect them to get more for Kulikov than they do for Shattenkirk, but I wouldn't be surprised if they keep one of those 2. For Kulikov's grade on the year, I'm thinking C to a C+. He's looked okay. There's games where you're like, man, you are just sucking the life out of this team with your defensive laps. And then there's games where it's like, you're kind of giving energy to this team. Big hits, big defensive plays. But it's just the lack of consistency, really. We now get to Max Comtois. He has 5 goals, and that's it. It's not great. I had higher hopes for him this year. Maybe a bounce-back year. It's not really looking like it's happening. I also don't think he's been given that many chances to have a potential bounce-back year. He had like maybe 1 or 2 games where he was playing with Zegras and Terry, but yeah, Max might be a player that gets moved. He's an RFA at the end of the year. I like Max Comtois. I like the grit that he brings. I like the forechecking that he brings. I like that he fights for his teammates. But he might get moved. He might get moved, and it would make me very sad. For his grade, C-. I'm sorry, Max. I really like you, man, but it has not been a good year. 5 goals in 30 games is not it. We now get to Brett Leeson. Brett Leeson has 3 goals and 1 assist in 4 points on 35 games. That's wrong. I did that wrong. 3, 2, 1, go. We now get to Brett Leeson. Brett Leeson's a year younger than Max Comtois. He has 4 points in 35 games, 3 of those being goals. this is rough, man. He has not been given a whole lot of opportunity, but yeah, he's a player who could get moved as well. I don't understand why the Ducks would move him or Max because they're both younger players. Max is only 24. Leeson is only 23, and yeah, man, I'm just hoping that at least one of those guys stays on the team. A player I accidentally forgot to mention was Max Jones. 5 points in 28 games. It's 2 less games than Max Comtois, but he has the same amount of points as Max Comtois. Max Jones is out with injury right now. Same age as Comtois as well. The one thing I like more about Max Comtois that I don't like as much about Jones has this tendency to take dumb penalties. He takes some really stupid penalties and it hurts the Ducks. However, I'm just kind of hoping that both of them will come back and be okay and be given another chance next year when they have a decent coach. The last player I'm going to talk about is Simon Benoit. He only has 2 points in 37 games this year. Yeah, this has not been a great year for Benoit. Grade-wise, I would give him D. A D. He's not been good. Takes some dumb penalties. Yeah, and for the players that have played at least 66% of the team's games so far this year, that's where I have them ranked and how likely they are to get traded. Benoit might get traded, but again, not entirely sure. Now we're going to talk about the players who haven't played at least 2/3 of the Ducks games this year. All of these grades are incomplete, and so I'm either going to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down for how I liked them. Isaac Lundestrom, 6 points, 24 games. Pretty even there. Lundestrom has looked okay. They're trying to force him onto the power play. It's not really working. I would suggest not doing that. But yeah, 6 points in 24 games. He's looked okay. When he was healthy, he looked fine. We'll move on to Derek Grant now. Derek Grant, sorry, he can't skate, man. Ducks might be able to trade him for something. He's on like a 1-year contract. Get him out the door, man. Get him out the door. Sam Carrick, he's like Derek Grant, but he can skate. He's okay. I don't think the Ducks will trade him. He's been in the organization for forever. Yeah, this is a player who good fourth line role player. You know, like it's not amazing, but not terrible either. We move on to Pavel Regenda. I'll give him 2 thumbs up. This dude fights, and I'm not talking about physically fights. This dude fights every game. Like, goes out there 120%. That's him. That is what he's there for. Pavel Regenda looks really good. I hope to see more of him after the deadline when the Ducks move on from maybe one of their forwards. But I just hope that they have a different coach by then so Eakins doesn't ruin this guy's development. Nathan Beaulieu. Not a fan. He's cost the Ducks goals, quite literally. He's cost the Ducks penalties and penalties and penalties. Dude's a stalwart. You can skate circles around him too. He's like Derek Grant, but on defense and worse. Jason Megna, he's got into 14 games this year. I mean, 2 points, hasn't been amazing. Been decent backup at this point. Colton White, he's looked pretty good actually in the games that he's played. He doesn't put up a ton of points. Only played 18 games, 2 points. I like the way he plays though. He's defensively responsible, so I'll give him a thumbs up. Urho Vakanainen. This one's really hard to judge. I'll just go like, honestly, I don't know where to put him. I really don't. He's looked okay in the 15 games that he's played, but like he had that injury in the beginning of the season, and I don't know if he really ever got any time to be with the team. Austin Strand played 5 games. He's okay. Wasn't amazing. Didn't do anything terrible. Justin Kirkland. Okay to thumbs up. He's looked okay. Doesn't have any points. 7 games played. The guy nicknamed Costco. He's looked okay. He puts in a lot of effort. He just hasn't been rewarded yet. Glenn got in. Hasn't gotten to a lot of games. Only 3 games played. Looked okay. Wasn't really noticeable. So as long as you aren't really, really noticeable in a bad way, I think you're okay. Jamie Drysdale. Been injured the whole season. He only played the first 8 games, and I hope to see him back at the end of the year, and I can give you like yeah, Drysdale looks pretty good at the end of the year, but I honestly have no idea. Lucas Dostal. He has looked real good. Dostal has looked real good. Coming in basically cold, Dostal has looked amazing. We're now going to move on to the goaltending. John Gibson has played 27 games this year. Anthony Stolarz has played 14 games this year. John Gibson, there's a lot of games where he looks really defeated. Don't like that. I do not like that. You need to put the effort out, Gibson. You really, really do. And that's not totally on him, but you need to put the effort out. Anthony Stolarz, it's about the same with him and Gibson. He's a little bit more chaotic than Gibson, but I'll still take John Gibson, the starter, over, Stolarz, the backup, any day. Now to grade the coaching staff. F. Didn't even need to say and think about it. That was for dramatic effect. But this is an F. This is an F grade. Power play's awful. Penalty kill is awful. 5-on-5 they get outplayed. The changes that they make usually occur when the Ducks are up in games. And they make 0 changes when the Ducks are getting their shit run. I do not know when they need to do it, but they need to get Eakins out the door. I don't really care who takes over, but how Eakins coaches, it's ruining their development. You need to try somebody else. Sooner rather than later, but we will see. Alright, so that is it for this one. Hit that like button if you like what you saw. Hit that subscribe button if you really like it. And I will hope to see all of you here on Wednesday or Thursday when I make the video for the game against the Edmonton Oilers. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.